You're playing in my girl's face right now and I don't like it. I don't like it one bit. Ugh, men are scary. It's heartbreaking. Like when I tell you I was on the verge of tears in the back of the pickup truck. Why am I actually tearing up? Wait. Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. If you are new, if you're not new, welcome back to my channel. My name is Marina and this week I have a fun little idea. I have so many books on my TBR that I have a feeling I'm going to love, but I just have not found the courage or the time really to pick them up and read them. And I kind of want to fix that today. I don't know, what do you guys think? I feel like this week I should dedicate my time to strictly reading books on my physical TBR. You guys already know this. But also to make sure that those books are what I feel are 5-star productions. I have so many books that I really want to get to that I'm excited for because I feel like I'm going to love them, but I never really know where to start. I don't really have a clear idea of what I want to read, or I just end up reading books on my Kindle. So I think for this TBR Takedown video, I'm just going to be reading my 5-star predictions, and I'm gonna hope that they are 5 stars because you guys know I've been struggling to find 5 stars for the past we're 5 months into 2026 and I only have I think 2 5-star reads of the year so far. That's not good. It's not looking good out here. Maybe that's just because I've gotten stricter with ratings. I can admit that to myself. That was one of my goals of 2026, was to get a lot more strict around these parts and not just give it anything just a 5-star rating. And I feel like I've done a good job with that, but because of that and me being more aware of what I'm reading and actually critiquing what I'm reading, I'm just not giving as many books as high of ratings anymore. And I feel like I need to be more conscious of what I'm picking up. So I want to just pick up books on my TBR that I feel like I will give 5 stars. I don't know how many books I'm going to be able to read this week. I'm going to strive for 3. We'll see how that goes. As of right now, I did start one of my 5-star predictions today. I started it when I went to work. I'm only 50 pages in, so I'm not that far ahead that I forgot to update you guys on anything. I got the arc for Fishbone Cinderella by Elizabeth Lim. Guys, look at her. Look at her. She's gorgeous. She doesn't come out until July 28th, so I still got some time. But I really wanted to get started on this just so I could give a clear review for it. I'm so happy that I got this. I got it through my job and now I'm finally reading it. I got this months ago, so I really need to get started on it. Honestly, the only reason why this is giving me 5-star feelings is because I've heard great things about Elizabeth Lim's other books. I've heard great things from specifically my own close personal friends who love her books. One of my best friends, Lucy, gave 6 Crimson Cranes 6 stars last year, and I was like, wow, that must be really good. And I wanted to read 6 Crimson Cranes first, but since I already had the arc available, I was like, you know what, let me just get started on this because it is a book I own. So yeah, I'm only on chapter 6. I'm this far into it, so I really haven't gotten far at all. That's as much as I was able to read at work, but I do want to continue reading this today. If I'm being honest, I went to this completely blind. As you guys know, I like to do with books, so I can't give you a full synopsis based off of 50 pages. But right now we are following 2 characters, a mother and a daughter. We're following Yut Ying, I hope I'm pronouncing her name right, in the 1940s, and we're following her daughter Marigold in the 1980s. And this book starts off with them getting on a plane to go to a friend of a friend's son's wedding or whatever. And in that first scene, you can already see that those 2 are not really close. As mother and daughter relationships go, they're really on the back end of having a good relationship. And then after that chapter, it cuts back to 1940, and you get to see Ying and her upbringing and what she grew up in. She basically grew up for most of her childhood in the midst of a war. So her and her family were just working with little to nothing, no real home. And when she starts to be of age, she ends up being able to move to Hong Kong where her father lives, and she gets taken in by her father, his new wife, and I'm assuming a couple of step siblings, considering that this is a Cinderella retelling. And I don't really know what the 1980s timeline is going to bring us. I feel like it's going to showcase Marigold discovering more about her mom's past as we discover more about her mom's past when we go back and forth between the timelines. And I'm really excited. There's also some fantasy element in here from what I've gathered. I don't really know if it's a spoiler. I don't want to say it if it is. Okay, it doesn't say it in the synopsis, so I'm not going to say it. But yeah, from what I got from the synopsis, now that I've read it, we're basically following Ying's whole entire life up until 1980s when she is with her daughter on that plane, and what she had to go through to get to where she is, like in her life and just being a mother. Whereas with her daughter Marigold, we're watching her discover more about her mom and figure out why her mom just disappears. And I'm saying that in the most literal sense. Her mom has a tendency to turn invisible, and she has no idea why her mom does that. And so her mom doesn't address it. Her mom likes to keep secrets, and it's what has been keeping them apart for years. It's because she feels like she can't trust her mother. But as she uncovers her mother's secret, she gets to understand her more, and it just seems like a really beautiful story about mother-daughter relationships, generational trauma with a mask of just like a Cinderella retelling. Like, I'm excited for all of this, don't get me wrong, but I feel like it being a Cinderella retelling really is the cherry on top, because fun fact about me, I will eat up a Cinderella retelling every time. I don't care what form of media it is. I don't care. I've never cared. I love a good Cinderella retelling. It's one of the most basic facts about me. This book is actually kind of thick. I'm not gonna lie. It's like 400 something-ish pages. Like I said, I got through 50 pages today, so I feel like I'm already making good pacing with it so far. Yeah, if I really want to finish this so I have time to read 2 other books, I need to start now. So that's what I'm gonna be doing. And I'll be updating you guys as I get further into this. And yeah, I hope that you guys enjoy this vlog. Good morning, guys. I have been reading Fishbone Cinderella. I didn't get as far as I wanted to last night, so I've been reading a good chunk of it this morning. I only read like another 20 pages before I just went to bed. And so my goal was to get to page 100. You guys know me, I like to get through the first 100 pages within the first day of me reading a book, just so I can get the vibe of it and figure out if I like it or not. And I didn't get there yet. So I wanted to see how far I could get today. And I'm officially on chapter 14, page 115. So we're making good progress. This is how far I'm into it, or this far. I will say this story is not what I expected it to be, and not in a bad way. I just feel like you guys might know my taste by now. I'm not really into historical fiction. It's not really something that I really garner to in terms of my taste, but I'm open to reading it. I just feel like it would need to be mixed with another genre that I like. So like romance or fantasy, so on and so forth. And this one so far is just strictly historical fiction. There are, again, some fantasy elements like I mentioned yesterday, but they haven't really been brought up into like the main story. So I'm getting a lot of background into the politics that are happening in China right now and how they're affecting Ying's family in the 1960s. I think I explained this yesterday, but most of Ying's childhood was spent living through the Japanese invasion of China. And so when she's like 12 years old, her mom is now sending her off to live with her father and his new wife and her new stepsister, and she goes there with her brother as well. And so she's kind of learning the cultural differences between living in a village on the outskirts of China versus living in like big city of Hong Kong and where all the elites go to live. And it's very interesting reading about. I don't mind reading about it, all that to say. I just wasn't expecting it to get this much into like the historical aspects of the story. I also really adore the Cinderella retelling parts of this book because so far they're not as straightforward as you would predict a Cinderella retelling would be. Right now we are still getting like her full backstory of when she was a kid. So like she just got to Hong Kong, she's still getting to know her new family, and her evil stepmother isn't off the bat evil, at least not to Yit Yang. She adores her and she wants to earn her gratitude, have her favor her. She wants to get to know her stepsister. She's really intrigued with having a sister because she's only grown up with brothers. So you get to see like this kind of need and want for affection that she feels like she's always missed in her life. And it's mostly like really adorable, but it's also kind of sad because you already know where it's going. But that's the thing though, with this book, I don't know when the turning point is going to come. We're still getting to know the characters, we're still getting to understand the family dynamics of her family in Hong Kong. So like her stepmother and how she interacts with her stepsister and their relationship, which is not all that great. We also get to understand her father's motives of bringing her and her brother to Hong Kong and why he even said that it was okay for them to come, because when she was a kid, her father abandoned them to live in Hong Kong and meet a new woman. So she's like slowly understanding his motives of wanting them to come here. And then she's also living in the same house as her aunt, who she hasn't seen since she was a baby. So it's all of these like family ties that she has no real loyalty to. If anything, she's always thinking about her mom back in the village where she grew up and hoping that she can do right by her mom in establishing a life for herself here. That was the whole point of her mom wanting her to leave. But she feels like everyone in this family has their own secrets and she just wants to understand them more as time goes on, hopefully gain their loyalty and love. There is no real Cinderella aspects of it yet, other than like the Cinderella part of a stepmom, a stepsister, and an ain't shit father. Sorry to Cinderella's father, but I'm sorry, like he should have done more. You guys know me, a story that's centered around character dynamics first and then like plot second will always get a win from me. That's how I like my stories. If I'm not invested in the characters and I just can't get into the story itself. So yeah, I'm really enjoying this. Hey guys, it is a couple of days later. I did not update you guys yesterday because I just did not. I can say I have made progress. I'm on part 2 of the book. So that's like what, halfway? Over halfway? If I'm being honest, I haven't updated you guys simply because it's just such a sad book that like talking about it, I can't. And I know it's the tale of Cinderella, and Cinderella isn't really the happiest story. It's like the very end. It's not really like a word for word retelling of Cinderella, obviously, but like even the way that the story is playing out, like this is so tragic. I can't talk about it without spoiling like specific things that have happened that have made my heart literally break for the character. In this, you can really tell how alone the main character is. Well, there are 2 main characters. The main character for the most part of this book being Yit Yang, or Helen, now that she's like changed her name at the point of this book. Remember when I told you guys that she has like this power of like turning invisible and disappearing? It really comes out in like later parts of the book because it's like supposed to represent how sad she is, how depressed she is. Whenever she feels like drowning in her dark thoughts, she just instantly turns invisible to the world, and it's so sad. I don't know how else to describe it. I'm sorry. Like I can't. Like the amount of people that are pissing me off in this book because they won't just let Helen have peace. It's not even just her stepmother. It's like everyone in the story ain't shit. I'm talking about her dad, her aunt, her love interest. Her love interest low-key sucks. I mean, he could maybe redeem himself later, but I just finished like part 1, as you guys know, and he asked her a question and I was like, there's no way you're serious. You're playing in my girl's face right now and I don't like it. I don't like it one bit. At the part of the book where I'm at, she is now going to try to make a life for herself in America. And I think this is where we're slowly going to find ties to the 1980 timeline of where her daughter is like traveling from California to Hong Kong with Helen when she's older and a mother, and trying to figure out her mother's background and history of what she left behind when she left Hong Kong to move to the States. And I'm really excited to see where that connection comes from, because it's very clear that Helen does not talk about her past in China at all, at least not to like her kids. I think she has 3 daughters, but we're only following Marigold because I think Marigold is the only one that is traveling with her. I'm so excited to figure out these things with Marigold, because although I'm like halfway into the story, I'm not gonna lie, I feel like I barely even scratched the surface of like Helen's life and what she has been through. Like at this point in the story, by the time she's left, she's like, I want to say 18, maybe 19. So she's like barely even an adult yet, and she's had to go through so much crap. So I'm really hoping like her life in America, for what it's worth, is a tad bit easier. Granted, it's like 1950s America, so let me not hold my breath. Once you are in this book, you're in it. Like, it's very addictive, I will say. I cannot put it down. I don't know if I will be rating it 5 stars, all that to say. It really depends on how this book ends, because if you're gonna give me all of this sadness without any real resolution that feels satisfying, I'm gonna be very upset. I'm gonna be very upset. And by resolution, I just mean everyone that has made this girl suffer has to pay for their crimes, whether that be actually going to jail for reasons that I can't say, or death. Death to them all. Like, yes, I want Helen to find happiness, and she can do that away from her family, but I still want her family to suffer. That's what would make me satisfied by the end of the book, but that's just because I'm petty. Low-key, I feel like how Helen treats her daughter, I'm only getting glimpses into 1980. Like, I'm not really following Marigold as a character. Most of this book is about Ying, or Helen, and the little chapters I do get from Marigold's perspective, like I said, you can tell that they're not close. I don't think it's to the point of like how Helen was treated as a kid and she projects that on her daughter or daughters. I just think that because of the way Helen grew up and what she had to go through as a kid, I feel like she probably didn't even want kids, for real. And then when she had kids, she didn't really know how to properly raise them because she didn't get that growing up. So it was kind of just her feeling a little detached from her family, if I had to take a guess, because I think I said this before, her and Marigold, there's some kind of disconnect there. They don't really get each other, or Marigold doesn't get her mom specifically, and it's because Helen is so closed off. And so I'm very excited, like I said, to see how Marigold uncovers all of her mom's secrets when they land back in Hong Kong to go to this friend of a friend's wedding. I think that's going to be really interesting. I'll update you guys if I have something interesting to say, but so far, that's it. Hello guys, I am coming at you a couple days later to finally talk to you guys about Fishbone Cinderella by Elizabeth Lim. I finished this today, and I did not mean to. I did not think I was going to. Today is a Saturday. It is my day off, so I was gonna try to finish it today, but I didn't know if I would have time because it is Mother's Day weekend as of the time I am recording this, and I've had the longest day ever. Let me just like rant to you guys about my day real quick. I have been up since 4 a.m. because me and my parents had to go up to my brother's school and get his stuff because it's the end of the semester and he has to move out of his dorm, and we had to take apart everything, but the drive to his school is like around 2 hours, so we had to be up early and then like on the drive back. I've been out of the house all day, and then when I got home I realized that my computer is broken. You can't make this up, you really can't. So I just got back from the computer repair place, not with my computer because they don't know what's wrong with it, so I'm gonna be computerless for like who knows how long, I don't know, but I've had a really long day. All that to say, because I spent a majority of my day in the backseat of my dad's pickup truck, I just spent that time reading, and so I can confidently say I have finished this book, and my god, this book, I can't wait for this to come out and for people to talk about it, because I can't talk about what I want to talk about because no one I know has read it, because it doesn't come out until July. This is not a 5-star. I just want to come out here and say it's not a 5-star, but it's very close. Like, I'm thinking about giving it like 4.5, 4.75. It's so up there that it's ridiculous. Elizabeth Lim, I was not familiar with your game. Again, I am aware of who Elizabeth Lim is because she is a best-selling author, and one of my friends really loves Six Crimson Cranes. So because of that, I am familiar with her work, but I was not all that familiar. In hindsight, I didn't know anything going into this, like in terms of plot or just her writing style, and I'm so shocked. Guys, this book is so good. I feel like I've been explaining this book wrong, if I'm being honest, because I know I keep explaining it as like a fantasy, but if I'm being honest, this is a more so literary fiction with a hint of magical realism in it. There is no real fantasy in here, in my opinion. Like, I didn't really get that from this book. I've said this once and I'll say it again. It's about healing generational trauma, but it goes deeper into that when you look at like the cultural elements of a story of immigrants and how you want to make a better life for yourself when you move to a different country, but you don't know how to leave your past behind you, and how that past can end up affecting a new generation and the generation after that. And it's just so, oh my god, it's heartbreaking. Like, when I tell you I was on the verge of tears in the back of the pickup truck, almost sobbed my eyes out at the end of this book. I feel like I got everything I could have wanted out of this and more, because I'm being honest, I went in this with like high expectations, obviously, because I had a 5-star prediction for it, but because I went in not knowing anything, I kind of was thinking like, okay, even if I don't end up giving this like the greatest rating of all time, at least I've read something from Elizabeth Lim, because she's been one of those authors I've been wanting to read from for a long time. But I'm so happy that I ended up loving this book. A majority of this book, we are following Helen and her journey of when she was growing up in China all the way up until she moved to America to start her family. And Helen's story is so sad. I want to give her a hug so bad. I need to give this woman a hug, and she's not even real. Helen is a good example of like when you grow up in a traumatic and abusive household and you want better for your kids, but like because all that abuse and trauma is something that you haven't properly dealt with and have neglected all your life, you accidentally end up projecting those fears onto your children, and it shows how that affects her children later on. Like, this is such an interesting like case study of like the psychological warfare that comes with like childhood trauma, and how that childhood trauma builds in you as an adult. I feel like I'm not making any sense with this review because I'm just like word vomiting, but I haven't had the chance, obviously, if you can't tell, I haven't had the chance today to sit with this book after finishing it. And now that like I'm talking to you guys about it on camera, I don't know how to make my review cohesive, so I'm so sorry about that. Also, I do need to start getting ready soon because again, it is Mother's Day weekend and I'm leaving soon. The reason I did not give it a full 5 stars is because I feel like Marigold's story was left a bit incomplete in my eyes. Needed like another 10 pages just to make her story feel better for me. And in terms of like what I mean by feel better, I would have liked, I can't say that because it's a spoiler. Okay, never mind, I can't say it. But like when you read this book, because you guys will be reading this book, right? Make your pre-orders now, I'm so serious. When this comes out, you guys are gonna know what I'm talking about when you read it. And I don't know, maybe it's just me being nitpicky because like I said, everything in the book came full circle in terms of like both Helen's character development and Marigold's, but I feel like there's a little part in regards to Marigold that I feel like needed a little bit of mending towards the end, and you're gonna know what I mean when you read the book. But besides that, it's so close to being a 5-star. This was a good 5-star prediction. Though it didn't get a full 5 stars, it's getting a 4.75. It's literally on the cusp. And who knows, I could change my mind tomorrow and be like, screw it, I'm wrong, and I could just give it a 5-star. But in this moment right now, that's how I'm feeling. I genuinely think that this book could be one of my favorite books of the year. I'm really interested in reading like the rest of Elizabeth Lim's books because I know that she has a backlog, a backlist that I could go through. Like, I'm obsessed with not just this book but her writing style. The prose in this book had me gagged, jaw dropped, gasping for air. I can't talk about this anymore. No, I can't. I'm on a time crunch. I can't. But yeah, Fishbone Cinderella, not a 5-star, but damn near close enough that it might as well be one, I'm not gonna lie. Now, I have made the decision while I was reading Fishbone Cinderella and I was like finishing it today, I was like, I'm really enjoying that I don't need to continue a series with this. Like, I love the fact that that's a one and done deal and it's a standalone, and it's just, it makes me feel satisfied after I read it. So I think what I'm gonna do is just pick up standalones for the rest of this video. So with my next 5-star prediction in mind, I'm looking at my shelf right now, and I think the standalone that I'm gonna pick that I have high hopes for being 5 stars is A Song to Drown Rivers by Anne Liang. Now, I have heard amazing things about this from people that I know personally, which is why I have it like so high in terms of expectation. A lot of people seem to love specifically like her fiction and like her romance books. I read one of her romance books, her YA romance books, a couple years ago, and I thought it was really cute. I can't remember what it was called, but I know that this is her adult fantasy debut, which has me very intrigued. Like I said, this is a standalone, so I'm hoping to get those same like 5-star feelings for this and to also feel very satisfied by the end of this book. I don't really know anything about it. I don't know if this is a retelling as well. All I know is that it was written by Anne Liang and that it's an adult fantasy. And I think this also is kind of like taking a historical fiction route in terms of like setting. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, it takes place in ancient China. Yeah, this is what I'm gonna be reading for the next few days. It still has the receipt in it. We started off this video with a bang, so I'm really hoping that this book can deliver, but we'll just have to see. Hi everyone. It is a few days later. I'm not gonna lie. I did take a few days to like get over Fishbone Cinderella. That book really put me through it unexpectedly. So I can confidently tell you though that I have started A Song to Drown Rivers by Anne Liang on chapter 9 now. I don't know if you guys can see that. I started this book last night and I read a little bit of it at work, and as per usual, you guys know probably that I went into this book blind, so I just wanted to get a feel for it, understand what the story was. And let me just tell you, this book wasted no time getting into the thick of it, which is what I appreciate, because you guys know I love a good long fantasy book, but sometimes we just got to get the ball rolling, okay? And this book, I'm telling you, by like chapter 2, the story was in full force. I was like, all right. This book is about this girl named, I don't want to mispronounce her name, Shisha. If I butchered that, I'm so sorry. But Shisha is a girl who lives in a village, and she's kind of known as like the diamond of the season. Sorry, that was a stupid Bridgerton reference. Like, everyone knows her in this village for having an absurd amount of beauty, like from her face to her hair, like her body. It's just like everyone knows that she is the prettiest person in the land, basically. And because of this, her parents have always sheltered her because they don't want like men hounding her. Good on the parents, great on the parents actually, because men are scary. One day she ends up getting a call from the king, and he's like, hey, I need you to be my spy for the enemy king that has invaded our territory. I need you to act as his concubine, maybe his wife, I don't know. And while you're with him, you need to give us intel on what he's planning to do so we can take him down. So the king hires his advisor to help train her and her best friend, who is going to be essentially like her bodyguard, but she's also going to be undercover as a lady in the palace. This guy, the advisor, his name is Fanli. I want to say that's how you pronounce his name. I feel like I'm butchering all these names and I'm so sorry. But Fanli is basically training Shisha and her friend to work undercover as a spy. and it's really good so far. You know what it reminded me of right off the bat is The Poet Empress. You guys know The Poet Empress is one of my highlights of the year. Like, I started off the year with a bang with that book, and this really gives that in terms of like the plot. The characters and like the story progression, very different, but the plot and the story, very similar. Yeah, I have nothing to really say, if I'm being honest, because I feel like now that I've reached chapter 9, the actual like story of her infiltrating the king's castle and working to get him to marry her so she can take him down, that's all starting on chapter 9. Up until this point, the first 100 pages have just been like the training process of teaching this girl from a small village how to be a spy. And it's been pretty decent. I will say this is a romantasy, and if I were to judge the romance part of this whole entire thing, I feel like what I'm missing from it is like a little bit more of the attraction between the two characters. Now, I will say there's a lot of tension between them, which I really love, because obviously Fondly is her advisor and she is supposed to be marrying the king who is also the enemy, and he's helping her train to marry the king. There's a lot of will they, won't they, while also being like a lot of like, we should not do this, but we really want to do this. There's like a lot of attraction there, but I wish it would show me on page how it led up to that attraction. You kind of see literally within like the first chapter how they meet right off the bat in the book. Understand that there is something between Fondly and Shisha, but you don't, in my opinion, so far in the book, I'm not really seeing like many moments with those two to understand why they want each other so bad. She's been training with her friend and Fondly for like 10 weeks. Like, they've been stuck at this encampment for 10 weeks before they ship her off to the enemy king. I feel like 10 weeks and 100 pages, less than 100 pages, I would say like the real training didn't begin until like chapter 3. So like, let's say like 60 pages of just training. I feel like with that training, I didn't get many moments between the two love interests, and because of that, I'm not really understanding their connection, their vibe with each other. I would just like more. I don't know how to describe how I'm feeling. I need to understand why Fondly feels so much for her, if that makes sense. He is the king's advisor, and he's kind of known in the land to not let his heart overtake his mind. Like, he has a quote that's actually displayed on the front of the book: the mind destroys, the heart devours. And it's basically to always keep him in check so he doesn't forget his duty to the people, to the palace, yada yada yada. So you see in this book that he is so close to dropping all of that just for Shisha, and I don't understand why, because I feel like I haven't seen a real connection between them, minus stuff that we got at the beginning of the book and like maybe one moment during like their training process, you know? So if I'm gonna get a guy who's very all about his business and about duty and is said to be very like grumpy, all of that, I would love to know why he is willing to drop everything for this girl who he signed up to help take over enemy territory. I hope I'm making sense. I feel like I'm word vomiting, but that's just because I'm like tired. I just got back home from work, so right now I have a pizza in the oven. I'm gonna eat, but before I eat, I'm gonna continue reading. But those are my thoughts so far. Don't know if I'm getting 5-star feelings from like the first 100 pages, if I'm being honest. I feel like once I reach the halfway point, I will probably have a prediction of what I'm gonna rate the book. But as you guys can see, the book isn't that long. Like, I'm almost halfway there already. This book is really short, which is why I appreciate it being fast-paced, because we can't waste any time here. I don't really get those 5-star feelings yet, but we can still hold out hope. I remember though when my friend recommended me this book that she was like, you might not like the ending of it. So I'm scared. I'm scared to know why she thinks that. She was recommending it to me, saying that I would love this book, which is why I'm reading it for this video. But I also remember her saying, I feel you would like this book, you just won't like the ending. What does that mean? What does that mean? Also guys, when I started this book, I found my receipt in the book, so I've been using it as a bookmark. I looked down at the receipt. It says that I bought this back in October of 2024. I've had this book for almost 2 years, guys. This is why I need to read my physical TBR, because what do you mean I've had this book for damn near 2 years? But yeah, I'm gonna continue reading. I'll update you guys probably when I'm like officially halfway into the book. But yeah, That's all I got for you. Hi everyone, it is days later. Like when I say days later, I mean at least like 4 days later since I last updated you on A Song to Drown Rivers, and I'm done with the book. I literally just finished it 5 minutes ago, and I want to give my review. Let me just start off by saying this is not a 5-star book. This book has me a little bit confused, in a conundrum, if you will. I meant to update you guys, like I said, when I got to like the halfway point in the book, but I'm not gonna lie guys, this is a very quick read. The only reason why I did not finish it probably the day I last updated you is because the past week has been so busy, and if I'm being honest, reading has been the last thing on my mind due to like personal stuff going on. So I finally had the time today to crack this open, and when I did, I just kept reading until I got to the end of it. So I don't really have any other updates than the ones I gave you before, so sorry about that. Yeah, I'm very conflicted when it comes to my feelings of this book, because as soon as I made the comparison of it being like the Poet Empress, I couldn't stop comparing the two, and that's my own fault. But also when you look at what the books are about and the premise and like the characters that are involved, it is very similar. So with that being said, I could not separate the two, and my feelings for the Poet Empress affected my thoughts while reading this book. Because of that, I think I would have to give this book like 3-ish stars, because I feel like I've read a better version of this. It didn't meet my expectations really at all. I will say, my friend that was like, yeah, you're not gonna like the ending, I think that she's right, but it's not for the reasons that she probably thinks, and I know that makes no sense because I can't disclose what the ending is because I obviously don't want to spoil it for you guys. But for those of you guys that read this book, you know that the endings of this book isn't the most satisfying, but usually when it comes to fantasy, I don't really need a satisfying ending, especially when it has to do with like war. And that's what this book is. It's just about two kingdoms duking it out in a war. War is not always happy. It's not gonna have the most satisfying ending. That's fine. But the ending did this thing for me. I can't go into it. I can't because it's a spoiler. Yeah, I don't know how to feel about this book. I think I'm gonna have to give it like 3 to 3.5 stars if I had to like give a rating now. That would be what it is. But I feel like I am gonna have to sit with this book to figure out what it is that just didn't click. I honestly do think it's like a pacing issue for the book. It kind of goes with what I was saying before in my previous clip, where it just felt like the story was really fast. Like while I did enjoy the fact that we got into the book immediately, I also feel like it was a disservice to the story to not actually see certain things play out in a way where we could actually stay with these characters, stay in a certain scene. It kept on being like, okay, so now we're doing this, and now we're doing this, now we're doing this, and now we're doing this. Like there was no real like breathing room in between each thing that happened in the book. Like it just felt like we need to get the story rolling. Guys, you see how small this book is? This book is like 300 pages. This book takes place over the span of like 3-ish years, I think, and it's like this small. So you can probably guess my gripes. The Poet Empress, because I need to make the comparison, is not that much longer than this. That is also a standalone that's like around 400-ish pages, I think, and it spans around the same amount of time. I just feel like with that book, it took its time exploring not just the story, but its characters, exploring what war does to its people. This story just really lacked that. I overall thought it was just fine. Like it didn't wow me like I wanted it to wow me, and it makes me really sad because again, this book has been on my shelf for a long time, and now I've read it and I just feel like I didn't need to. Very disappointing. I'll probably have a more in-depth review for my wrap-up this month, but that's how I'm feeling as of right now. Okay, now we need to pick the last book for this video because this video has drawn out longer than what I wanted it to, again because there has been like other things going on. So I do want to end off on a somewhat high note of actually finding a 5-star read. I'm looking at my shelf and I realized this like a couple of days ago. I realized like the first 2 books I picked, this and Fishbone Cinderella, both by Asian authors. Perfect for AAPI month, guys. So should we just stick to that theme for the last book? Again, that was a coincidence. I didn't realize I was doing that until like a few days ago, but why not? Why not we just like stick to a theme and continue with an Asian author. I have so many on my shelf to choose from, if I'm being honest. I don't really know what I'm in the mood for necessarily. I still think I want to do a standalone because I really don't feel like getting into another series right now. I'm so serious about that. I can't. How about, guys, I think it's time. I think I already know what time it is. Hold that thought. I think it's finally time for me to read Blood Over Bright Haven by ML Wong. I'm so scared to start this. You guys know me and ML Wong, we have no real history because I haven't actually read any of her books, but I own both of her books. I own this one and I own Sword of Kaigen. I think that's what it's called. Yeah, it's like on my shelf down there. I feel like I need to read one of her books. I'm just scared and I don't know why. I don't know. I heard so much about this book specifically. Both of her books I've heard high praise about, but when this came out a few years ago, it was like the talk of the town for like the whole entire year. And I felt FOMO, but I felt like it wasn't my time to read it, okay? And so I did end up buying it. It's been on my shelf since it came out, basically. And I think I can say I'm ready to dive into this. All I know is that we're following a woman who really wants to break down the barriers that are set in her land where like it's pretty misogynistic. She's like, I really want to do better for this world that I live in and do it while being a woman. And she's not the most likable female character. I've heard that as well, that the FMC in this book is really, really annoying. I know that we follow another character, and I know this is what sold me on this book because one of my coworkers actually compared this to Full Metal Alchemist. Say less. I'm in. You guys know. Well, you probably don't because I don't really talk about like the anime that I'm into because I'm not really a big anime fan. But the few anime that I have seen, Full Metal Alchemist is one of them, and that's my show. So anything compared to that, I'm in. That's all I know. That literally is nothing. That's nothing. So you guys can see I'm going into another book completely blind. But yeah, this is gonna be the next read to end out this vlog. And I really have high hopes for this, but we'll just have to see. Okay guys, it's time for an update for Blood Over Bright Haven. I am like halfway into the book. Well, it doesn't look like I am, but I am. I'm like 200 pages into this and I think it's around 400-ish pages. So I think it's time for an update. This book is going beyond all my expectations. Following two characters, well, in the first half of the book at least, we're following like one character, but the book starts off in a different character's POV. So I'm gonna say we're following two characters. We're following a woman, Siona. I think that's how you pronounce her name. It's spelled S-C-I-O-N-A. I've been pronouncing it Siona in my head, or Siona, whichever one. Siona is someone who lives in Bright Haven, or Tehran, this place that's kind of like an evolved magical land that uses like metal to create all of the tech that they have. All of their industry comes from metal and crafting metal and looking for ways to source metal. And there are really powerful people that do this, but they're all men. And Siona decides when she's like a really young girl, like, hey, I want to be the first woman to become like a high mage. And a high mage is one of those powerful people that help run these industries. She does a lot of like the source mapping, basically, of where to find the metal. That's what she studies. That's what she studied all her life. She's like, I'm going to become the first female high mage to ever be a high mage, first of all, but to also help source the material that's used to power the industry. And she ends up getting in. She gets an assistant to help her with her work, incoming the other main character, Thomil. He says how to pronounce his name. His name is spelled Thomil. So I thought it would just be Thomil, but then the way that he says it's pronounced is like Thomil, but it's not like a the, it's like a the but I don't know. I'm just gonna call him Tamil for now, though I know that's not how you pronounce his name. I'm so sorry. Tamil is a Quinn, and Quinn live outside of Tehran. They're like looked down by Turanish people for being like vicious, cannibalistic heathens. And the only reason why Quinn live in Tehran is to basically do the labor that the Turanish people don't want. So they're basically like doing slave labor for the Tehran. And in return for like doing that slave labor, they get to live peacefully within the Turanish walls. So when Tamil gets basically promoted from being a janitor to being Siona's assistant, she's like, well, great, now I'm stuck with this guy that literally no one wants. But it ends up becoming an interesting partnership. She kind of helps him through all of her prejudices. By the way, she is very prejudiced towards Quinn. Everyone in the Turanish walls are. But through her prejudices, she ends up teaching him about the magic behind what she is skilled in and the magic behind the Turan culture. She kind of like helps him discover things, and he also kind of teaches her his perspective on like the Turanish culture and how it differs from what he's grown up in his whole life. Because again, the Quinn, they're from the outside world of Tehran. They don't really know much about the Turanish culture other than like the bare bones and the fact that the Tehran people treat them terribly. So he has different gods that he believes in. His people grew up with like a different language, and so they're basically teaching one another different things. And it's crazy because along the way, again, I'm only halfway into this book, but there is a plot twist. Siona realizes that all of her prejudices and how all of her views towards the Quinn are wrongfully placed. The way that the Tehran people are getting their power isn't all what it seems to be. She starts to doubt everything she's learned her whole entire life, from like her family to her teachers, her professors, the people that helped get her to being the first female high mage. She's like starting to question if all of that is really worth it to get to where she's always wanted to be. You know, that's kind of what we're following. That was a really long-winded way of explaining this, but I hope that you followed that. I'm really liking this book. This book was kind of intimidating me for a long time, and I don't know why. Like I said, it's not really that long. It's only a little over 400 pages. I think it's because of the fact everyone was praising it like a few years ago when it came out. And I don't know, the concept of it sounded cool, but I was like, that just seems like something I'm not ready for to deal with. Like, I don't think I was ready a few years ago when it first came out to read it. And now that I have officially opened it, I'm mad at myself because why didn't I read this a few years ago? I will say the people are right. Siona is a very annoying character, but here's the thing, that's purposefully done. You're dealing with a character who is stuck in her ways of only looking out for herself, for her people. She's not open-minded to any other people's opinions about like their other cultures, the other gods and faiths that they follow. She is accustomed to living in a society where everyone thinks and feels the same about how they think and what they worship. So obviously when a new character like Tamil walks into her life, someone who came from a different upbringing that's also getting treated terribly by her people and has a different worldview, reading in her perspective is frustrating because she is so ignorant. And it's not even like a willful ignorance. Because here's the thing, with their dynamic, she is willing to learn more from him, but every time he kind of disagrees with her, she gets up in arms. She wants to learn more, but she's so hesitant to go against everything that she's known her whole life, because then what is true and what is not, she doesn't know. She feels like she's been lied to her whole life. So I think that this is the point of the story, and obviously I'm enjoying that aspect of it. I wouldn't say I like her as a character. We're just gonna have to see. Hopefully by the end of the book I do end up liking her, but if I don't, that's fine, because I can see that that's what the author is trying to do. This is a book about characters having to unlearn the way that they feel and think based on their upbringing, their culture, their home life, their environment, being able to look past all of that and see the world from a person that's not like you, seeing the world from that person's perspective and being willing to openly agree to disagree respectfully as well. I also like the magic. It's getting really into like the detail of how the magic works in this book, and I really like it. I do. At first I was a little bit lost because the technology behind what they're doing, like, I'm not gonna lie, why I kind of skim past it, because I don't really understand. Like, I can picture it, but only to some extent. But now that like I'm halfway into it, I feel like I get it fully. I feel like I can also be a high mage because of the way that Emma Wong has like fleshed out the world, but also like how the magic is used. Again, there are high mages, archmages that are in charge of this world, but each of them have like a different skill set when it comes to working metal. Siona does the mapping of it all, so finding where to find the best metal. She doesn't really build it. There are other builders that are high mages and stuff like that. Like, there are different cliques and different jobs for the Tyrannish people. So being able to learn about that also is just like making the world feel like so wide and expansive. It's tickling a part of my brain that I like when I read fantasy. I think I've told you guys this before. I really like it when fantasy or authors that write fantasies aren't afraid to like flesh out the world. I think that's the whole point of a fantasy book, is being able to explore a world that's not like yours, being able to learn the magic systems and stuff. Like, that's always been my favorite part of reading a fantasy, and I think Emma Wong is doing it so well that it's actually gagging me really bad. Do you feel like I'm gonna read some more today? It has been days since I last updated you because I've been kind of reading this book sporadically. I haven't had time to really sit down and read it other than at my job, ironically enough, and I don't really record at my job. So I'm gonna see if I have time today to continue reading this book. I kind of have the goal of finishing it tomorrow because I do want to finish this video. This video has dragged out almost a month, guys. That's not what I meant to do. It was not meant to be this long. So I really do want to finish this so I can like edit it and get it out to you guys in the time that I want it out. I also don't want to rush this book, if I'm being honest. I'm really enjoying it, like to the point where I was hesitant to put it down last night. I was reading it up until I went to bed. It's very serious for me. So far, it's not disappointing me. It is giving 5 stars. If it ends the way that I want it to end, which I'm hoping, then yeah, 5 stars across the board. There's nothing about this book that I could say I dislike so far. High hopes, very, very high hopes. Well, I finished Blood Over Brighthaven. I have no words. I have no words for what this book just put me through. 5 stars across the board. Let's just get that out of the way right now. 5 stars. I'm so shocked. I think I need to sit with this for a second because I went into this book knowing all of the hype that people have been giving it for the past few years. I knew a little bit of its premise, but nothing than what I feel like I needed to know before going into it, so I wasn't like spoiled or anything. I low-key went into this book kind of blind. My God, nothing could have prepared me. I wasn't ready for that. This close to shedding a tear. This close. I don't cry that often with books, but it almost got me at the end. Yeah, at first I was like a little concerned, guys. I didn't think I'd be able to find a 5-star in this video because I was having no luck with the others. What a way to end out the video. I'm so happy that I read this book. I'm actually mad at myself now for putting it off so long, but I think that this book came at a very great time in my life. This is, I feel like, a book. This is gonna sound dramatic, but it's true. It kind of like gave me more hope for the fantasy genre reading something like this from an author that's like originally indie published, that has only like 2 books out and is able to make something this powerful of a statement. And mind you, like, The themes in this book are not that different from other fantasies. This isn't really anything new in the fantasy genre, but it's just the way that it was executed, the way that it was written, the way that the themes and messaging were told, like the layers to this story, from like the different characters to the religious aspect. I need to actually sit with it. I don't know why I turned the camera on as soon as I finished it. I need to sit through it, but I want to let you guys know that this is a 5-star read. I loved everything about this. The characters that I loved to the characters that I hated, to the actual story, to the story progression. Like nothing felt forced in terms of like the characters and their dynamics. Nothing felt rushed in terms of like the actual story pacing of it all. And this is all just in one book. This is a standalone book that's like 400 pages. That's really why it's giving me hope for the fantasy genre. I'm sorry, I love series as much as the next person. I love a good duology, a good trilogy, a good like 5-book series or more. But when you are able to make a book this good within 400 pages or less, it just makes me really happy. It makes me so happy. Why am I actually tearing up? Why am I actually tearing up? Wait. We're following 2 characters, Sayona and Tomil, and they work together to basically unlearn everything that they've known about their communities, the environments that they've grown up in, unlearn the prejudices, what they know about each other, and they just want to make a better world for both of them and their communities. And it's just such a beautiful story that is literally heartbreaking. Like I should not be tearing up right now. This is ridiculous. I'm sure I'll give a better review in my wrap up, don't worry. Right now I'm just way too gobsmacked and flabbergasted to say anything. But this is gonna be the end of the vlog. I've dragged out this video for way too long. I need to end it. So yeah, if you guys enjoyed this, thank you so much. If you would like to follow me on my social media, it'll all be linked in the description below. I have officially started posting on my Bookstagram account, by the way, so like if you want to follow me on there, go ahead. And yeah, I think that's it. I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye everyone.